Welcome back to the deep dive. You're here because you value structured knowledge, that really clean and efficient path to becoming well-informed.
Mhm.
Now, our sources usually take us into, the weeds of macroeconomics or some new emerging tech. But today, we are doing something a bit different.
The deep dive that's also kind of a meta dive.
Exactly.
Our source material isn't some complex white paper. It's the full transcript from an English language learning podcast. And not just any, but one for absolute beginners.
Right. Which sounds counterintuitive for us. So the question is, why are we analyzing content designed for A1, A2 learners?
Because hidden inside this really simple instructional material, there's an incredible data set.
It's a perfect case study. We get two complete and really contrasting daily schedules. We get to follow these two people, Kate and Ben, from the moment they wake up.
And by looking at their choices, the small things, we can pull out these really profound insights into productivity, wellness, and even content strategy.
We have to start with that strategy part, though, the
Right.
context.
Right. The whole reason this content even exists is because of global feedback.
The original hosts, Aaron and Evan, were speaking too quickly. Their pace was fine for, say, B1 or B2 learners, intermediate speakers.
But they got this flood of feedback. It was coming from all over India, Brazil, Vietnam, Iran, the UAE, the US, Turkey, all saying the same thing.
Slow down.
Exactly. We need something for true beginners.
So what they did was a textbook case of market segmentation. Just brilliant.
It really was. They brought in Kate and Ben to create this new stream of content, specifically for A1, A2 learners at that slower pace.
And they made it super clear. They marked the proficiency level in every single thumbnail, so there was no confusion. You knew exactly what you were getting into.
Which is so critical. It's all about managing cognitive load. If you're an A1 learner trying to keep up with a B2 conversation,
You're just going to get frustrated.
you're going to burn out. You're not just learning words, you're fighting the pace, the context, everything. By splitting the content, they guaranteed that the beginners would feel a sense of success.
And that feeling of success brings us right to our mission today. Kate and Ben chose the topic of the daily routine because, and I'm quoting here, it's easy and very useful. So our mission is to analyze every step of their day, morning, workday, evening, to see how these tiny little differences in personal choice,
What they eat, how they get to work, how they unwind.
how all of that builds two completely different blueprints for how to manage a modern professional life. We're pulling B2 level insights out of A1 level vocabulary.
We're looking for the philosophy behind the choices. What are they optimizing for? Is it control, comfort, speed, connection? That's the real deep dive here.
Let's unpack this.
So the entire foundation, the architecture of this learning material, it's all built on one thing: accessibility.
Right.
That decision to split the content by level, A1, A2 versus B1 and up, that's the key. It's an operational choice that makes sure learners aren't overwhelmed.
It's the first lesson for any learner, really. You have to match what you're taking in to what you can actually handle at that moment.
Exactly. And when you're just starting, you need concepts that are, high utility, things you can use right away.
Which is why daily routine is just perfect. The source material lays it out so simply. It covers the day from the moment you wake up all the way to bedtime at night.
It gives you this chronological framework, this scaffold that's the same for pretty much everyone, no matter where you are in the world or what you do for a living.
It's an amazing data set for learning. It uses simple present tense verbs for actions that are, well, they're universal. You have to wash up, you have to eat, you have to work.
And when you map new words onto that predictable, repeating structure, you're going to remember them so much better. It reduces the cognitive strain. It's a shortcut to comprehension.
So before we get into their specific choices, let's just quickly go over the core vocabulary they prioritized for the morning routine. These are the building blocks,
Right. The atoms of the routine.
the verbs they use to build this whole comparison.
And the list itself is, it's deceptively simple. It's wake up, wash your face, brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, eat breakfast, drink coffee or tea.
And then finally, drive a car or take the bus.
And notice the pattern there. The first few actions are just human necessities, right? Universal. But those last three, what you eat, what you drink, how you get to work, that's where personal choice comes in. That's where their two lifestyles really start to diverge.
That list is so simple, but it sets us up for a really complex look at how people manage their own lives, their self-regulation.
It really does. We're about to move from the A1 vocabulary of what they do to a deeper analysis of why they do it.
And that starts with the very first split in the morning.
Exactly. This initial time difference, it's foundational. It dictates everything that follows in terms of how they manage their energy for the day.
So we have a clear chronological split right at the start. It's a contrast in chronotypes. Kate is definitely the early riser. She's up around 6:30 a.m.
And Ben is a bit later, 7 a.m. But it's the detail he gives that's so telling. He mentions his alarm going beep, 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 and then he just stays in bed for a minute.
So he's not a jump out of bed type.
Not at all. Kate seems to be. She's a jump starter. Ben is more of a gradualist. He needs that little buffer, that transition into the day, that 30-minute difference, and his need to linger. It signals a completely different approach to energy.
And that approach shows up immediately in their hygiene rituals. They're both intentionally using sensory input to get their minds and bodies ready for the day ahead.
Right, and this is where we see them actively managing their physical state, and they do it with temperature.
Okay, so Kate's first move is to wash her face with cold water.
And she's very explicit about why. She says, "It helps me feel awake." This is a classic example of hormetic stress.
A small biological shock to the system.
Exactly. A little stressor that prompts this big alerting response from your body. She's using that cold water as a neural activator, basically, to make her 6.30 Zala start as efficient as possible.
And Ben does the complete opposite.
The total opposite. He washes his face, and then he takes a hot water shower. He says it makes him feel fresh.
So he's going for comfort.
He's prioritizing comfort and relaxation. He wants a gentle, soothing transition into his day. So where Kate uses this jolt of intensity to shock herself awake, Ben uses warmth to ease into it.
And there's an efficiency difference here, too. They both say brushing their teeth is a must, but Kate specifically calls her shower short.
Which fits her whole model. Efficiency. Ben's hot water shower, you can infer it's probably a bit longer, more of a sensory experience, which again fits his gradualist style.
Okay, then they get dressed. And this is where we get the first hint about their professional identities.
Yeah, this is a big one. Ben immediately puts himself in work mode. He puts on a shirt and pants for work.
His clothing choice is tied to his professional role from the get-go.
Totally. Whereas Kate, she prioritizes comfort. She wears comfortable clothes, usually a t-shirt and jeans.
And that says a lot about managing decision fatigue, doesn't it?
It's huge.
Yeah.
By keeping it simple, Kate saves that mental energy. She's not spending cognitive resources on choosing an outfit. She's saving it for her actual work. Ben's choice is more about professional presentation. Maybe his role requires it more, as we'll see.
And that brings us to the biggest split of the morning, breakfast.
The fuel contrast. This tells you almost everything you need to know about their energy strategy for the entire day.
So Ben goes for what you call the dopaminergic boost.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He eats eggs with bread, and this is the crucial part, coffee. He says very clearly, I can't start my day without coffee.
So it's high impact, high protein, caffeine driven.
Right. And remember, he started his day a little later, a little more slowly. So he needs that powerful, immediate stimulant to get his brain up to speed quickly. He's basically running on a high-octane fuel mix.
While Kate is going for the slow burn.
Exactly. The sustained, gentle approach. She prefers tea, and she explicitly says she avoids coffee. Her meal is light and healthy. Some fruit, like an apple or a banana.
She's optimizing for stable blood sugar.
She is. She doesn't want that coffee spike and then the inevitable crash. She's engineering her system for sustained energy, which makes sense with her earlier, more natural start. She needs less external stimulation.
So the source material just lays it out perfectly. Coffee for the high-impact guy, tea for the sustained energy person.
Ben is trading metabolic predictability for that immediate kick. Kate is all about balance and long-term health metrics.
Okay, so they've fueled up, now they have to get to work. And the commute itself, that 30-minute transition, is another major point of contrast.
This is the classic split between control and passive experience. Ben drives his car.
Which takes about 30 minutes, involves traffic, and he listens to the radio.
So he gets total control over his timing when he leaves the route. But the trade-off is the stress of traffic. And he's subjected to whatever the radio is feeding him. News, talk, ads. It's distracting.
While Kate chooses a very deliberate de-stressing method. Public transit.
Right, she takes the bus, she gives up that personal control over the route, but she gains the ability to curate her own little environment. She listens to music.
And she says it makes the trip more relaxing.
She's prioritizing her internal state over external control. That's her focus during that transition time.
And that choice goes all the way back to their morning habit.
It's all connected. Ben, the driver, is seeking efficiency and control. Kate, who's already regulated her state with cold water and tea, uses her commute to maximize relaxation. Ben's goal is to arrive efficiently. Kate's goal is to arrive prepared, psychologically.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because they've spent this whole morning building these two just radically different personal operating systems. One is for high impact, the other for sustained, low friction work.
And then they walk into the office.
And the universal demands of knowledge work just flatten everything.
Yeah, it's the narrative tension right there. Despite all this bespoke personal engineering, their arrival ritual is identical. They both sit down at their desk and turn on the computer.
The machine doesn't care if you drink coffee or tea. It needs the same input.
And that first input is always the same.
The email avalanche.
The email avalanche.
Yeah.
Both of them. Their first task is to check, read, and reply to emails. And Ben gives that great detail about the sheer volume of it. He says, it takes a long time because there are so many emails every day.
It's the shared reality. You have to clear out the administrative junk before you can even start your real work.
And right after that shared misery, their professional roles diverge again, and it echoes that whole morning contrast we saw.
Let's talk about their meetings. Kate's schedule seems very tactical.
Very. She usually has a meeting in the morning, and it's all about what needs to get done today. They discuss tasks, deadlines for the day, problems that need solving now.
She's focused on execution, the velocity of the team.
Exactly. Whereas Ben's meetings are much more strategic. Higher level, he only meets once or twice a week.
And what are those meetings about?
Big picture stuff. Talking, sharing ideas, making plans for new projects. Ben is doing long-term strategic forecasting. Kate is managing the daily pipeline.
And that distinction is so important when you think back to their breakfast.
It maps perfectly.
Kate, the execution manager, has this light, steady, non-caffeinated energy supply. She's optimized for clear-headed problem solving all morning.
And Ben, the strategic planner, he needs these huge bursts of focus for those big planning sessions. That's exactly what the eggs and coffee are for.
But there's a risk there.
A huge risk. If those meetings run long, or if the problem is more complex than he thought, he's at risk of a major post-caffeine crash. It could seriously impact his decision-making in the afternoon. His strategy is high reward, but it's also high risk.
So whether they're doing tactics or strategy, the main part of their day is the same. Sitting at a desk, looking at a screen, writing, reading, preparing documents.
Which brings us to lunch. The midday refuel, and again, a critical decision point about how to manage the fatigue from the morning.
Ben sticks to his theme of control and efficiency.
He brings his lunch from home, a sandwich and some fruit.
And this is another move to reduce cognitive load. He's pre-made the decision of what to eat. He doesn't waste time or mental energy on it during the day. Simple and healthy.
Kate, on the other hand, opts for a change of scenery. She goes to a cafe nearby. She likes the variety, a salad or maybe soup.
And she adds a really important detail that Ben doesn't.
The water. She always drinks a big glass of water.
So Ben manages his diet through routine and control. Kate manages hers through variety and conscious hydration because she knows that afternoon slump is often just dehydration.
They're completely different on the food and the environment, but then they converge on what I think is the most important shared insight in this whole thing.
I agree completely. The post-lunch recovery protocol.
It is the universal truth. It doesn't matter who you are or what you had for breakfast. Both Kate and Ben agree that a short walk outside for 10 or 15 minutes is absolutely essential.
And they use the exact same words to describe why. It makes them feel fresh, lets them see the sun, move your body, and feel ready to work again.
This is something that needs a deeper look. They're both doing this sedentary, high-stress work. They have these opposite personal philosophies, and yet they both instinctively know that the only way to reset their brains for the afternoon is a physical break, an environmental interruption.
It's the PAR principle in action, physical activity and restoration.
That's it. The walk isn't just about moving. It's about getting away from the blue light of the screen, getting some sunlight to help regulate your circadian rhythm. It restores your ability to focus.
It proves that no matter how you structure your day, your biology is not negotiable. Your body and brain need that break to keep going.
It's just fascinating that their productivity depends on this moment of intentional inefficiency, taking time away from the desk.
And after that walk, they head back in for the afternoon slog.
Yep. More of the same. More emails, more meetings, more work until 5:00 p.m. And they both agree that leaving the office is the best feeling of the day.
So their evening routines are all about recovery. Not optimization, but just managing that fatigue and trying to restore their mental and emotional balance.
And that starts with the commute home. Kate's bus ride is about 20 minutes, so it's shorter, and she's still using it for active relaxation. listening to music.
She even says she sometimes closes her eyes and just enjoys the ride. She's creating a hard boundary between work and home.
Well, Ben, in his car, is still dealing with unpredictable traffic. He listens to the radio or a podcast, he says, to make the time go faster.
He's trying to shrink the perception of that wasted time.
Exactly. Kate embraces the downtime. Ben tries to optimize or accelerate it. It's the same pattern we've seen all day. Internal regulation versus external management.
But the second they walk through their front doors, that structural commonality comes right back.
Yeah, it does. They both say, this is the best part of the evening.
And they do the exact same thing. They immediately change out of their work clothes and into something soft and comfortable.
Which is such a powerful symbolic act. It's a physical signal to your brain.
Yeah.
The work persona is off now.
And that's followed by a quick pause. Just a few minutes on the sofa, maybe checking their phone, maybe just sitting quietly. A little buffer before they have to think about dinner.
And what they choose for dinner gives us another little insight into how they handle complexity at the end of a long day.
Ben is the cook. He'll make things like chicken and rice or pasta,
Right.
but the key detail for me is his fatigue plan.
His contingency protocol.
The omelet. He says, if I'm really tired, I just make an omelet. He even says omelet saved the day.
And that's not just a meal choice. That is a sophisticated self-management system.
It is.
He knows his capacity for complex tasks is shot when he's exhausted, so he has this automated, rapid, high-protein default ready to go. It fits his strategic, control-oriented personality perfectly.
And Kate, the simpler chef.
Back to her theme of ease and hydration. She'll make soup or a salad with bread. And, true to form, she always drinks a cup of tea with her dinner.
Tea is her constant, the comforting ritual that frames her day.
And what they do after dinner, that final wind down, is maybe the most telling difference in their whole routine when it comes to long-term mental health.
So Ben washes the dishes, and then he likes to watch a TV show.
This is classic passive consumption. It's a way to release mental pressure through external distraction. It's low-effort entertainment that lets the strategic brain just switch off for a while.
And Kate sometimes watches TV, but more often she does something else.
She reads book, or, and this is the key, she calls her family. And she's very clear about why. She says, talking to them about her day makes me feel happy.
So she's actively investing in her relationships.
Yes, she's using that emotional engagement to process her day and restore her sense of happiness and connection. She isn't just relying on passive distraction.
It shows that for Kate, relational satisfaction is a key part of her routine's success. Ben seems to prioritize just mental vacancy after a really high-load day.
Which brings us to the final moments. The transition to sleep, which has to work perfectly for them to be ready for those early starts.
And once again, there's a non-negotiable step they both take.
Always brush their teeth before bed.
Of course.
And Kate, once again, is using temperature to manage her state. Sometimes she'll take a warm shower at night.
And she says the hot water makes her feel calm and ready to rest.
Remember in the morning she used cold water to feel alert. She is consciously using temperature to flip a switch in her body. From alert and ready to calm and restful, it's incredible.
And she pairs that with reading a few pages of a book, which she says makes me feel sleepy in a good way. It's a gentle, structured wind down.
Ben's pattern is simpler, more introspective. He washes his face, changes into his pajamas, which he says he loves, and then he either reads a little or he just lies in bed and thinks about his day.
So he uses reflection as his closing ritual.
Right. He needs that mental processing time to sort of file away the day's events, to get a sense of closure before he can sleep. Kate needs sensory comfort. Ben needs cognitive closure.
And their bedtimes just confirm their chronotypes. Kate, the early riser, turns off the light around 10:30 p.m.
And Ben, the gradualist, is a little later, around 11:00 p.m., and then he says he falls asleep quickly. They're both getting enough sleep to fuel these really demanding days.
So what does this all mean? We started with, A1 vocabulary, and we've ended up with a pretty sophisticated analysis of lifestyle engineering.
I think if you synthesize the whole thing, what you see are two very effective but fundamentally different blueprints for how to stay well in the modern professional world.
Kate's routine is all about sustained energy and internal self-regulation.
Exactly. The early start, the cold water shock, the steady fuel from tea, the focus on efficiency, and then that relational recovery at night.
And Ben's routine is optimized for high-impact performance and external control.
He's managing his energy with these high dopamine boosts like coffee. He has that brilliant fatigue plan with the omelet, and he uses passive distraction to decompress after a day of heavy strategic thinking.
But the biggest takeaway for me isn't in their differences. It's where they converged.
It has to be. Despite all these different choices, tea versus coffee, bus versus car, tactical work versus strategic planning, the shared reality of their workday demanded one single identical reset.
That 10 or 15-minute walk outside.
That walk, their ability to sustain these schedules, their success, it's all defined by how they layered their personal strategies on top of that universal biological need for a physical break.
The walk proves it. You can personalize your structure all you want, but your biology is non-negotiable.
And that biological imperative brings us back to their evening choices. Kate found her rest through active social connection, calling her family. Ben found his through passive entertainment, watching TV.
But both of them understood they absolutely had to have that physical break first to sort of cleanse the system.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound question, one you can take away from this surprisingly rich transcript. We've identified 3 different types of breaks. The physical break with the walk, the social one with Kate's family calls, and the passive one with Ben's TV.
So, given how intense modern work is, and based on the fact that both of them, from their very different worlds, agreed on the physical reset, which of those recovery elements, the physical movement, the social connection, or the passive consumption, which one is the most essential, the one you absolutely cannot substitute for making sure you are truly ready for that next 6:3 or 7:0 a.m. start?
A question that proves, I think, that even a deep dive into the simplest routine can give you some incredibly actionable data.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with more structured knowledge acquisition.